Are we good? Oh, it's slip sliding. Slip sliding. Eh. If I can't go live on Instagram, that's okay. But we're going to do it. You're going to get a live shot of my chin. Anyway, all right, here we go. All right, well, thanks for sticking with me. I think we're good. And I want to talk to you today about themes around home. So, the description of today's live is home is where your offerings live. Home is where your offerings live. Now, how do I know this? I'm going to tell you some stories today about my experience of home and how I've been able to create a home, not only for myself within my offerings and within my services, but a home for folks around the world who maybe also feel like they don't always belong, maybe feel like they are the black sheep of their family, maybe feel like not many people understand them. And as spiritual entrepreneurs, when you find other spiritual entrepreneurs, you're like, oh, okay, this is where I belong. However, it may take some tries, different masterminds, different mentors, to finally find your sense of home within this larger space of coaching and self development. Because the coaching and self development world is pretty unique as it is and is broad. But when you are someone who is spirited, who is guided by spirit, who has a connection to the divine, who has practices and tools that are ancient or even modern, but connected to what you know as someone who has awakened or someone who has developed themselves in a way where you can say, I am spiritual. And, anyone can say they're spiritual. I often don't say that. That's why I'm giggling, is like, what is spiritual anyway? But for me, after studying at the foot of a Vedantic monk, I have realized that all of life and showing up for it is the spiritual practice. It is a miracle that you have been born in this time, right here, right now. It is super unique that you have chosen to advance and ascend. And, these are interesting terms to use, but to reclaim also, reclaim the humanness and the spirit that has always lived inside you. And oftentimes, as a seeker, as someone on a path, and even the template or the archetype of a path is that there is somewhere to go, that we're getting somewhere. But interestingly enough, we are always getting somewhere. We're always taking steps. We're always moving forward in life, and we're all heading to the same place. I don't have to tell you, you already know. And the path is the point, the journey is the point. I teach on the hero's journey in all of my programs to remind my clients that the results are not always like the thing that we want. We say we want the results, we say we want success, we say we want um a booked out practice and a business that feels artful and feels sustainable, and you definitely get to want that. I have that as a core desire in the way that I set my business up, in the way that I move in my business. And what your soul is calling for is a true journey that evolves you into who you're meant to become. And especially if you're on the path of a high value guide, that evolves you into someone who has the capacity, the lessons, the stories, and the teachings that invite people naturally to want to work with you. So just because I wanted to be a highly valued guide, and just because I wanted to make money from my personality and my gifts, it took a long journey and road to have not just the trainings and certifications, but the teachings that arise naturally and spring forth from me naturally because of my experiences, because of claiming and putting a flag into the earth saying, I am here as a guide, as a facilitator of transformation. And anytime I find myself off path, it is my duty, my responsibility, my highest joy to reconnect with my mission, my path, and align with the truth of why we do these extraordinary things. It is an extraordinary claim and aim that you have whenever you want to make your sacred calling your full time gig. So, on that note, the theme of home has been a theme that has come up for me throughout my life. And recently, I was home in my hometown. So, where I was born, where I grew up, and I was visiting family. I met my new niece, who is 6 months now. She was 5 months at the time, and reconnected with my nephew, my mom, my aunts, even reconnected with my father, who had been estranged from my life for over 5 years. And so, this particular time of going home really affected me. I'm still integrating the lessons. But what was unique to this time of me going home was I really had a mission to show up as the integrated human. I'm laughing because, like, did it actually happen? But show up as the integrated human, as the soul led leader, as someone who is less affected, less triggered, less walking with wounds, leading her life. And Ram Dass says, if you think you're enlightened, go spend a week at home with your family. And I really carried that mantra with me because I did not do it perfectly. I became the child several times. I felt triggered, but what was really powerful was I didn't react from those triggers. And I think that we know, as facilitators of transformation, and many of you are trauma informed and work with trauma and work with healing in that way, we don't expect our clients to get a lesson and then fully show up healed all of the time. And the healed version of you is simply responding and reacting slightly and subtly different every time we're met with an experience that would normally take us out, you know. And in my 20s, I was depressed for, I would say, over a year after I was attacked in my career as a psychotherapist by one of my clients. I was depressed because I had take my identity pulled out, felt like, from under me. And so yes, like, that's what I have learned from being on the path and not expecting myself to be fully healed in all moments, or perfect, or have the perfect response, or parent my parents, or never experience a childhood wound, especially when I have grown up um, in a house that wasn't perfect. Did anybody? But, you know, in a house that had violence, in a house that was a house of divorce and separation, and a house where there was neglect involved, and I wasn't sure. I wasn't even sure until my late 30s that I had and experiences that were worth therapy. And definitely I had, and definitely they were worth therapy. But because I was a psychotherapist working with really, really disrupted households and working with actual childhood trauma, with working with the families, reunifying families, when I lived in Hawaii, and in my 20s, most of my 20s, I was studying for that and then was a psychotherapist for youth in foster care and youth in group homes who had been removed from their families for committing sexual behavior um, crimes, really. And when we're working with children, there's a different approach. And so I was highly trained in that approach, and I clearly got burnt out. But because, no matter how much training I got in childhood behavior problems and in childhood trauma and in trauma as a whole, it wasn't the same as working through my own trauma. And because I had experienced or heard stories and worked with youth who, in my eyes, had it worse than me, there was a part of me that didn't feel like I deserved to heal these things or work on these things or face these things. So it took me a very long time, even though I was a psychotherapist, to really, really get to the heart of my own childhood trauma. And so returning home was very beautiful, but it wasn't easy. Okay, it wasn't easy. And being someone who has not felt like they belonged, even in their family of origin. So, besides, the childhood trauma that is clear of like violence and domestic violence and witnessing things that no child should have to witness, and child of divorce, besides those things, I am the only person, me and my sister are the only children of color in my on my mom's side of the family. So my mom is the youngest of 10, and we are the only brown kids. We are the only brown kids. So the energy or the theme of really being different, even in a big family, I didn't really understand the effect that it had on me until I was an adult. Obviously, obviously, this is how it all works. Like, we don't get our understandings till later on in life. And this is why many of us awaken later on in life. Yeah, there's kids coming into the field, fully awakened, little rainbow children or whatever they call them nowadays. I'm aging myself. They call us a geriatric millennial. Like, there ain't nothing geriatric about me. I am like lifting weights, girl. Like, I am young and fit as what do they say, a thistle? Where does that come from? Fit as a whistle. Anyway, I'm fit and I'm 40. I'm about to be 42 next month. Um, and yeah, not feeling like I belonged wasn't the worst thing in the world because it drove me to travel, to see other cultures where, holy smokes, like if you don't think you belong in a Western society where everybody is driving to their corporate job in cars that are loaned to them, exhaust in the air, sitting in 2 hours of traffic to go to a job under fluorescent lights that they don't give a ish about. Like, if you don't feel like you belong there, go to Thailand and you will definitely feel like you don't belong there. However, the culture shock awakens you into understanding that there are very many ways to live a life. There are more ways to live even a Western life. I found out from my travels through Europe, which is much more westernized, but multiculturally, where you can find different languages just traveling, an hour away from like Portugal to Spain, like completely different cultures and different languages. Yeah, they are more similar than say Germany and Portuguese, but like how did this happen, right? And I've always been a deep kid of like, because trauma will do that to you. I've always been asking the deeper questions, why, and I didn't have folks to answer those questions for me. If you see in the background, I have my book here, and my book is on all of the unanswerable questions that I had as a child, being like, "What is God? You know, nobody's taking me to church. What's why? What is religion all about? Like, why are we here? What is the purpose of life?" And super cool to be asking those questions, but also like no one around really being able to answer that. So I had to go on this journey. And so when I was attacked in my career as a psychotherapist, like, yes, it was depressing, but it sent me on a soul searching journey where I went to Thailand. I learned yoga at the foot of a monk, and I was home free. I called it home free because I became nomadic for at least 5 years. I mean, sometimes I lived in a van, sometimes I lived in a hut on the beach. One time I lived in this beautiful flat in Morocco. I want to tell a couple stories about the flat in Morocco because that's a different culture. You know, I didn't grow up with Muslim people. And so at 5 a.m., when I would hear the call to prayer, I would feel the divine like rising from the tips of my toes to the crown of my head, because religion is not divinity. Religion is a pathway to meet the divine, but we all have the access to God, source, the universe, the divine, the great mystery, the all pervading hug, whatever you call this thing that binds us together, that makes us one, this deeper desire to understand and to make meaning and to create symbols. And religion is just the symbol for our desire to feel at home and to belong. So I actually lived right outside the speaker. That was like, it was very beautiful. And I once, speaking of home, I once got a knock on my door in Morocco, and I opened the door and it's just two baby goats. So that was a very special home. And at the time, it was difficult. Looking back, you can pull all the beauty from it, but at the time, it was very difficult. The culture shock, the being a like a very hot, thank you very much, a very sexy woman in a Muslim country, and not being of the culture and not covering my hair, and also I look very Moroccan. The men, you wouldn't tell because the women covered their hair, but all the men had hair like me, which makes sense because my brown comes from Cabo Verde, which is an island off the coast of Senegal, and they were colonized by Portugal. So that is the meeting point between Portuguese people and African people, and lots of Cape Verdean people look like me, or lighter eyes. My dad has like almost blue eyes, so beautiful. So yeah, like I love understanding home, and even in that culture, there's this identity crisis that they have since they were colonized by Portugal. They were also part of the slave trade from Africa. There was a meeting point to buy and sell slaves, and the Portuguese people were a part of that. So my lineage, my ancestry is like in this battle of slave and slaver. And then I'm born from a white mom and a black African American dad. Like, even though he's mixed with Portuguese and Cape Verdean, and then the Cape Verdean people are mixed, he grew up as an African American man, light skinned, but African American man. And I'm this mixed chick there. And so this battle, or this weaving of cultures, but a battle can be a weaving, and a weaving can start as a battle. Like, when we stop fighting, and when we stop seeing black and white, and when we stop seeing good and bad. I mean, there's bad shit, and like I'll be like, that's bad. I play with this good girl bad girl thing too, like, am I a good girl? That's a little off topic, but not really, because duality is like, this realm is made of duality ultimately, so we can learn non-duality. And when I was studying at the foot of a monk and studying yoga, I was actually studying the philosophy of Vedanta, which is a sister science to yoga. There's Ayurveda, there's yoga, and there's Vedanta, and there's many sciences, but the Western world picked up on yoga, and even yoga philosophy is broken off into certain different philosophies within yoga itself, but Vedanta is a bit different and it is about oneness. But we can only learn about oneness by understanding the fractal, the separation, and that's what the path that I'm on, and that's why I was born mixed. Why I was born with a white dad. I mean, a white mom and a black dad, and I was born even on my dad's side. The culture is their Cape Verdean people are their own people now, but that didn't happen until the 80s. Before that, they were colonized by Portugal. So, this idea of home, this idea of belonging has been something that lives within my ancestry, lives within my DNA, lives in my genes, and has motivated me, even subconsciously, on the path of finding my home. And so when I landed in Guatemala, which is very interesting, actually, my stepmom is Guatemalan. When I landed in Guatemala, um, I also decided, okay, here's where I'm gonna be. I'm gonna be here for a little while, and I was like, total like, I was volunteering at my friend's retreat center because I was coming from this world of like starving artist. I was coming from this world of the starving artist trope. And I write more about this in my book, The Path of Becoming the High Value Guide. It is in the link in the description, link in the bio. And it is a book that helps you to create an offering that feels like home for yourself, that you can really pour your essence into, but also that feels like home and attracts joy to work with clients who are soul contracted to work with you, who feel a connection with you, who feel at home in your calls, in your sessions, in your program. So if you want that book, it's available for free for now for a limited time. And yeah, I felt like I was finally home. But the interesting thing about that was I was still like volunteering at a retreat center, living in tents. I had a van in the United States, and the van actually felt like the most home I had felt in a while because I owned it, because it was completely mine and I was sovereign. I could just, I don't like it here, just drive away there. I don't like it there, just drive away there. And I was parking in driveways outside of really beautiful homes, and people were welcoming me home, and then I would sleep in my van. So it wasn't the worst life, but there was some point, especially as I was heading into my late 30s, where I was like, I want something more. And I started to realize that these gifts I had acquired and these lessons that I had been teaching on in my workshops, they were worth more than the $5 I was receiving for our yoga class in Thailand. And they were worth more than even the 20 bucks I would receive from a workshop that I would deliver. That, yes, I would feel my teachings and I would feel my confidence and I would feel my leadership, but still, just because I was living somebody else's dream life, I needed to realize that I desired something more for me. I desired a home to call my own. I desired to feel abundant and feel like I could even purchase a home. And I even wanted to purchase a home for my mom because she was living, like, whenever I would go home, and even this time as well, she was living in her childhood home, but her sister owns it, and she's living in like her childhood bedroom. And I just wanted more for my lineage and for my life. And I could almost tear up because I'm still not there yet. I'm still not there yet. You know, I have created $500,000 in revenue, and I'm still not there yet. Most of that has been reinvested back into my business, as I'm sure those of you who are on a path, you know that the first 3 years are the most important years to build a foundation that can sustain you for many years. So, as much as I've been doing this for 5 years and I've had significant amount of success, I am just getting started. and even recently have downsized my home. Like, it was such an extraordinary feeling when my business was doing the best it had ever done, and I upgraded my living situation. And like, yes, I just did a reel on whether or not this was financially irresponsible, and to some it was, but for me, growing up poor, like, I needed to know that I could be in an environment that inspired me, that was expansive, that was not a van, and not living with other people, and not, at one point, as I was elevating my homes in this indigenous community. Like, this is a developing part of Guatemala. Guatemala City is developed, but I live in a developing part of Guatemala, and it's an indigenous land, indigenous part of Guatemala, and it's quite beautiful. The Mayan indigenous people live here, and I live here, and I have learned so much, and I've gained so much knowledge, and I've gained so much presence and communion with nature, and communion with other expats and soul led leaders and folks on a spiritual journey and on a spiritual path. And yeah, I was doing well in my business, and I was living at my means, though. That's what it is to have new money. I was like, I deserve this, like, YOLO. And it was probably the most expensive apartment on the lake. It had a pool. No one needs a pool. Like, I literally had a lake in front of the pool, but it had a pool. It was huge. It had two rooms, a huge kitchen, and it really expanded me. It really expanded me. I got my gong that you see here, and at the time, it was what I needed. And at the time, my mentor cried for me because she knows that I had come from living in a van and delivering workshops and feeling like my gifts were being undervalued, and feeling like, because I grew up poor, that this was all that I was allowed to ask for. Was I was allowed to ask for little bits of money, but I wasn't allowed to ask for thousands of dollars in life transformational programs. Like, my programs have helped people like triple those investments. I mean, I don't want to get banned here. One time I got banned from going live because I told the truth about what my client was able to create with an $8,000 investment, what she was able to create. I'm not going to say it out loud because I don't want to get banned, but it's in my results, my highlights on Instagram. It's in my results page on my website, freeyourcreativity.org. And like, this is the truth. This is the truth for people who are meant for this, who apply the teachings. I mean, this is an extraordinary human that did this. Like, this is someone who really was also a woman of color, and who also worked her booty off, who also had children, and it was just time. And she wasn't effing around, and she woke up at earlier than her kids, and she went to bed to create go to bed later, and to create the foundations for her dynasty, for her legacy. And now she has uh, in-person talks, and um, beautiful offerings in person and online. And she's become more than a coach. She's become a high value guide. This is my client, Tiffany. Hello, if you're watching. She lives in Hawaii, I live in Hawaii, and this is not a cheap place to live. Okay. So, like, if she can do it, you can do it. I can do it. When I look at my clients and they're raising three kids and doing, and letting their jobs finance their future, if they can do it, like, I'm like, I can do it. I can do this too. And they can do it as well. You can do it as well. So, where were we in this story of home? Yeah, so ultimately, creating homes where people were able to transform allowed me to upgrade my homes. And to be honest, now I have downgraded because I'm in the longest, biggest transition of my life. I am not completely 100% sure that where I live now, currently, is my forever home. And I waver and I wobble because there's so much beauty here. I feel at home here, but I also feel like a big fish in a small pond. And that's not an insult to folks who come here. My career started here. This is a place where healers and leaders come and learn and heal and deliver their offerings. A lot of my friends didn't just come here and go to workshops, they've come here and built businesses that bring um, uh, money and abundance to the local people. They've built homes, they've given back to the community in extraordinary ways. And those are the people that I've connected with the most. And yet I did not buy land and build a home. I did not build a retreat center. I did not do these things because I am not 100% sure that this is my home. And that has been the theme. It's like home gets to be temporary because your offerings are going to grow as you grow. Just like my home grew as I grew. And now, just because I'm downsizing doesn't mean that I am downsizing. I'm downsizing for a very specific reason because I will, it'll be easier to sublet this home than the two, every time I tried to sublet my house before, it was like nobody could pay because ultimately people come to developing countries not to pay more than they would in the US. I mean, that's not why I came here. That's not my thought process, but it is what some people think. And they're like, are you insane? So I have downsized ultimately to get things moving. I also have my lovely cats who they cannot travel with me. They're not dogs. And so ultimately, this home that I've created in the middle of the forest, I no longer have a lake view. I have a peek view when I go to the second floor. It's small and it's beautiful and it's reminding me of the knowing that I have that a home is not just about four walls. A home is not just about um where you do your dishes, where you pay rent. A home is where you feel your most expressed self. And so in this home, you can see I've decorated very beautifully. I show up and show out. I'm triple Libra when it comes to things like this, and I'm really excited to enter a new space because I like to leave things better than how I found them, and that is the path of a high value guide. That's what I do with my clients. That's what I do with my offerings. One of my clients repeated back to me something that I had said to her recently, which was, everything you touch turns to gold, because I see so much of myself in my clients, and sometimes they don't see what I haven't been able to see. And that reflection really inspires them. And it was true. Everything, she's also a triple Libra, but everything she touches turns to gold. And she has a six-figure business. And I don't take credit for her results, but I do love knowing that I got to walk beside these extraordinary humans. And actually, these are everyday women who have extraordinary aims, and help them to stay focused, to stay aligned, to keep taking the steps when it gets hard, because it does get hard, and have a place where they feel at home, supported, seen, and like they can continue to show up even though maybe not everyone believes in what they do, even though people are saying, oh, in this economy. And it's like, it's not about the economy. It's not about making six-figure months in my world for me or my clients. It's about creating the foundations for a sustainable, long lasting career so that we don't have to work for the man, so that we don't have to work in the Western world, so that we don't have to work for men who don't see that our softness is our gift, that our care, that our listening is a part of the transformational process, that our presence is a part of the transformational process. And it doesn't matter what our bottom line says, our businesses are run on our devotion and our care and our delivery of our offerings. And so, with that energy, with that archetype, walking with that archetype, invoking that archetype, each time that you start focusing too much on the vanity metrics, because it happens, right? It happens. I still want to go viral. I wouldn't mind. I made a reel that's coming out today or tomorrow. That's like, yeah, that whole messaging that's like, make money in your sleep. It's not that that message is lost on me. Like, sure, sounds lovely. And there's something deeper running through my veins that is much more important than making money in my sleep. Although that does happen, I wake up to payments all of the time. I'm not here to be a passive income course creator only. That part of my business does exist. I just did a soft baddie summer sale where folks were buying my low cost offers, and I don't even know where they are. The connection to them doesn't feel like home to me like it does with my connection with Sonia, who is about to re-enroll. She's the one with everything who touch turns the goal, who's about to re-enroll in the school, but at the mentorship upgrade. And I love that. I love being that guide that doesn't just attract clients, but works with them for years and years. That is a special kind of business. It's like, sure, attracting clients and being able to market my programs and promote my work and services and show up and be visible and speak on stages and write books and being visible. This is a part of it. This is definitely a part of it. And like having my message reach more people, whether they buy from me or not, is feeling like a mission. It's a part of my work and what drives me. Yes. And my people staying with me for years, it says more about the business that I am actually conducting versus the business that you might see the bro marketers have, or people who got really, really great at marketing and marketing hacks and going viral, but don't give two shits about the delivery of their programs. And you see people get burned, and you hear about stories where folks don't want to invest in themselves anymore because they've made so many mediocre or bad investments. But my clients re enrolling in my offers should tell you everything. And so I want to start to give you some insight into how I've been able to show up again and again and again and realign with my path and my mission. It is all thanks to knowing my high value archetype. I made it a little fun by calling it the high value baddie archetype. And I created a quiz, which is really fun, for you to unveil your high value baddie archetype. Because knowing this isn't just a fun little quiz that you want to share your results, like, oh, I got the sought after sage, oh, I got the community co creator, like whatever you've gotten as your archetype, or whichever one you're resonating with most, which you'll find out in the quiz. But you can also read my book. The second chapter in the book goes over each archetype. So if you get one archetype, you can read the book and then you'll know all four, because you probably have some crossover. I have crossover. And one of my most fascinating clients, Niv, she was one of my only clients that got the archetype of the certification course creator, because she is a badass woman of color. You don't have to be a woman of color to work with me. I'm just saying, like, it's pretty interesting that this brown baddie was able to create a certification course, triple her prices, bring people through an experience where they've raved about her work, fill it up again and again and again. And now she gets to feel the ripple effect of her work as an Ayurvedic practitioner living in the lives and being spread through the people that she's mentored and certified. And she had a crossover. She was also a sought after sage. And so everybody in her certification course also received one on one guidance. And this offer wasn't created all willy nilly. It was created over 3 months of working together. She created the sales page, she created the curriculum with me, she created the messaging, the And I don't take credit for her results. She definitely did all of this work. It wasn't my ideas that she completely based her, especially the curriculum. I know about Ayurveda, Kapha Pitta over here, and that's her work in the world. That's her body of work, and through my guidance and through the delivery of my offering, she was able to package up this and see herself as a higher, like a high valued guide, more so than she had ever seen before. More so enough to accept thousands and thousands of dollars from clients versus hundreds. But she didn't just accept that through energy. She actually created the offering that she felt confident and proud to sell at a higher price point. So, when you take the quiz and you download the book, The Path of Becoming the High Value Guide, you're going to read about all four. But here's something really cool that is happening just for the month of September. If you're watching this in the future, hit me up because it might have come back around already because I also put this session on YouTube. And yeah, so you're going to be watching this on YouTube in the future. Then hit me up because I might still be giving out complimentary calls to soul led leaders who are devoted to their path and their mission, who want to understand how to apply their archetype to their business because each archetype has a type of offering and its own unique path. And so I'm going to help you in this complimentary call to apply that archetype into your next step in business. Of course, if you want to continue on with me, that is available through mentorship, through my Conscious Creative Business School, or a self paced offer could be the thing for you. I have lots of different self paced courses that you can get in, get out, they're affordable. But my school is very, very affordable at $250 a month at the time of this recording. Really, I've been reflected many, many times that the price of this should raise. I don't know if it's going to raise in 2026, but um, maybe not, but for $250 a month you get weekly guidance, practically daily guidance, because I do office hours and I'm speaking to each of my clients personally. It's just not private. My private mentorship is much more high end, white glove treatment. You get a lot from me. You also get access to the school, so you get group and one-to-one. If you like a crossover, that's where I would guide you to. But a lot of people don't want to wait to answer their question. They don't want to wait for office hours. They don't want other people to hear their questions. And that's why you get the white glove treatment. We go a lot deeper at the mentorship level. And the call is a no pressure space to see how and if I could be the right guide for you by helping you to see something that you might not normally see, that you might not see now. So I have an appointment in 10 minutes. So I want to wrap this up, close this up, and say, you are amazing wherever you are, whichever archetype you get, even if you have a little bit of fear of moving into this next era, which I'm calling scaling while reclaiming your artistry, because I have been resistant to scaling because I didn't want to lose the intimacy with my clients and the high value baddie archetype. I wanted to continue to deliver offerings that got real results for people and where people felt held and supported. So I was afraid to scale because scaling can come with some feelings of separation from me and my clients. But I have found a way over the last year to scale, to grow, to have multiple offers that ascend into one another. I mean, I've been doing this for years, but this year in particular, being more accessible to folks without diminishing my quality of service. So I am really excited to teach you and help you to line up multiple offers if you have them, and to also decide if you want to that your gifts deserve a higher price point, but being able to sell at that price point in integrity is going to take some work, and I will gladly support you through that. So it's been so lovely connecting with you, and I will see you next week. Bye.